Hello, true crimerers. I do want to give you a heads up, especially to those who are parents. This is a case that can be very, very, very difficult to listen to. And this is another true crime in a short amount of time, and it is the case of Talia Williams. Viewer discretion is advised. Talia Williams was born on March 20th, 2000, and her birth parents were Talia and Naim Williams. Naim was a member of the U.S. military. When he found out that Talia was pregnant in 1999, he left her. He would eventually be stationed in Hawaii. At first, Talia was doing great as a single mom, and she loved Talia with all her heart. Basically, Naim didn't really have much to do with raising Talia. Naim would end up remarrying, and he married a woman named Delilah. Something, I guess, kind of odd happened. Talia started having a relationship with another woman, and her family very much disapproved of this. They then started throwing around accusations that, Talia is not being raised in a proper household. They said that Talia was basically starving Talia, and there may have been issues with, negligence. Apparently, there was some truth to it because they would go to court and all that, and they would essentially strip Talia of custody of Talia, and then Talia was basically shipped off to Hawaii to live with the father she barely knew. And that's when the abuse basically almost immediately started happening. When Talia was about 4 years old, I guess she started having issues with going to the bathroom, in her pants. This really made Naim and his wife Delilah really angry. And so they started to abuse her. They would hit her. They would starve her. They one time took all of the furniture out of Talia's bedroom, her bed and everything, made her sleep on the floor without a pillow as punishment for going to the bathroom in her underwear. They would constantly berate her. They would call her stupid. They would call her the R slur constantly. She had issues with incontinence, so they just, even though it was a medical issue, they didn't seem to care. And there were reports of abuse, basically, because Talia was allowed to speak on the phone to Talia for 15 minutes at a time, I think twice a week. Talia would tell her mom on the phone, even though she was only like 4, going into 5 years old, she would say, Mommy, Daddy is hurting me. Delilah is hurting me. I don't know if at that point the military intervened at all, because he was, stationed there in Hawaii in the military. But it didn't sound like they ever found out about this, or I don't know for sure. But it got to a point where they stopped letting Talia even have phone conversations with Talia, even though she was supposed to be. That was the court ruling. She was allowed to and supposed to be. But Naim and Delilah would cut her off from it. And on July 16th, 2005, it would all come to a very, very tragic end. It was a Saturday. Talia had wet herself sometime that morning. So Naim took off her shirt and then took off his belt, and he began to strike her in the back with the belt and would leave prominent scars. And she had previous scars from other times where he did this exact same thing. And so this particular morning, when he was hitting her with the belt, not only was he creating new scars, he was breaking open the other ones and causing them to bleed. He then basically locked her in her bedroom and didn't answer her every time she asked for help or that she needed food or something. He didn't do anything. Neither did Delilah. He did go on to check on her, what a guy, in the afternoon or so, and found out that she wet herself again. Gee, maybe if she wasn't locked in a bedroom, maybe you could have done something about that. He then forced Talia to go to the shower. Get in the shower, he says to her. And as she's walking to the shower, he's striking her with the belt again, and he's punching her in the head. One of the blows to her head was so hard that she fell to the ground and stopped moving. He picked her up, put her in the bathtub, and just started dumping water on her in hopes of waking her up. But she didn't wake up. So he just took her, put her into her empty bedroom, and just closed the door and said, oh, maybe she'll sleep it off. Delilah, by the way, is there at this point. She knows what's happened. She just tells him, just leave her alone. She'll wake up eventually. About 20 minutes or so later, they both would claim they started to hear wheezing coming from Talia's bedroom. They waited some time, just sort of casually, then went back into her bedroom to check on her. Wow, what great parenting. Delilah, who used to be a nurse in an emergency room, who was supposed to help people, she used her expertise to check Talia's pulse and said, well, she didn't feel anything. She said because of her expertise in working in emergency rooms that she noticed there was like a discharge coming from her mouth and that she was just probably dead. Just very casually, like, she's probably dead. She tells Naim that Talia's probably dead. But then she says to him, can you hold off on calling 911 though? Because, she had a daughter of her own and her daughter was there. So she said, I just need time to go put, my girl with a friend. Because I don't want them to we're going to be in trouble for this, so I don't want them to take her away from me. Oh, you. Delilah took her baby and dropped her off at a friend's house or a cousin's house. And then, later on in the day, around 6 p.m., that's when they finally decided to call an ambulance after Talia's been sitting in her room, wheezing and possibly dead for God knows how long. The ambulance arrived. She was still alert. She had a heartbeat, basically, but very faint. But by the time it was time to take her away, her heart stopped and she died. She went into cardiac arrest. That was her cause of death. Naim and Delilah were brought in for questioning. Delilah would basically say, oh, we've been abusing her for a while now, ever since we got her. She said, for a while there, I was hitting her a lot. And then Talia, she retaliated and she took her fingernails and she dug them into my arm and it really hurt. So she said, I'm not going to be abusing her anymore. So she said, I'll leave all that up to her father. What? You should be required to pass a test, a very detailed test and examinations before you can ever even procreate to have children. This beautiful little girl was having a medical issue when it came to going to the bathroom. It was a medical problem, but they abused her for it. Something she had a very difficult time controlling. She was a 5-year-old girl. She does not get to grow up. She does not get to experience life. She does not get to have friends. She does not get to go to school, graduate, get married, have kids of her own. She doesn't get to do any of that because two monsters decided, well, she just needed to die, basically, or we just didn't really care, because she was wetting herself. Something a lot of kids do. They murdered a 5-year-old child. Eventually, both Delilah and Naim would confess. Naim was put on, basically went through like a military trial, and then Delilah would end up pleading guilty to second-degree murder, and she was sentenced to 20 years flat in prison, no parole or anything like that. Naim, who would actually go through a death penalty trial, was convicted, and he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. And I sincerely hope that all the other men in that prison are well aware that that piece of shit murdered a child, because they don't take so kindly to child killers. I hope Talia, in some way, shape, or form, wherever she may be, is resting in peace. But that is the end of this very tragic case. As usual, if you have tripped, fallen, stumbled, and rolled into this video sheerly by accident, and you like true crime stories, please give this page a subscription. That was the weirdest way. That was the oldest way to say that possible. Man, give me a subscription, see? Also, kindly follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all linked in my link tree in the description below. I tell 4 stories here on YouTube a week, and then once on Instagram, one on Facebook, and one on TikTok. So, and I also go live from time to time on here and TikTok. I also have a Discord server if you want to join it. It's also in the link tree below. Please be over the age of 18, or you'll be kicked out, see? I also sell merch. If you're interested in t-shirts or hoodies, we do ship internationally, also in the link tree in the description below. But at any rate, true crime-maroonies, that is it for this video. And like I always do, I try to throw 2 jelly beans into my mouth to end a video. That was my eye socket. Well, couldn't have been any worse than that. Okay, I'm a pirate now. A butt pirate, no?